right out of the start, not leave it to the last day.
I think they underestimated the Trent Alexander leaving. I think, and it's just it's a domino effect. Trent Alexander leaves, all of a sudden you're talking one of the best passers in the Premier League, in my opinion. Then all of a sudden, when he plays at right back, now all of a sudden they're doubling up on Salah. Salah don't look like kicking the ball. And I just think it's a domino effect. They've got two centre-halves. My worrying thing during the week, it weren't all the changes they made. They didn't have hardly any, there were no big guns on the bench. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I just think he has put severe pressure on himself tonight. Not on the team, on himself to get a result against Villa.
And you look at those signings, Sue. I mean, obviously, we know that Ekitike has started strongly. It's been a struggle for Wirtz so far. Many think he will come good at some point. Kirkes, so far, under the microscope of being at the Champions, has looked out of his depth. Yeah. I mean, Jamie Carragher went as far as saying last weekend it's a crisis. Would you concur?
I still wouldn't say it's a crisis. I'd say that they're struggling and they're not where we expect them to be, because I think they've set the bar so high, what they did last season. They're certainly not where they want to be. I totally agree with Merce that even when they were winning the games early on in the season, they weren't at their very best. They were showing patches, and I watched the derby in here, and for 30 minutes they were brilliant against Everton, but then they didn't consistently do that for the whole 90 minutes. Everton got themselves back into the game, and there's just so many reasons, isn't there, that you can look at. You can look at the new players coming in, taking that time to adapt. They've come in with high price tags, which is pressure, so they're not quite living up to that. Again, what Mer said, losing players, the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. You can look at Diaz as well. Even Nunes, I know he was hit and miss, but again, a player that, they were used to playing with. And I think also the players that were so good last season, your Mo Salah, your Virgil van Dijk, maybe not at the height. So there's lots of different factors, I think, why Liverpool aren't where they are. I still wouldn't call it a crisis, and I still think that they can turn it around. With the quality in that squad, they can certainly turn it around.
And Boydie, one of the things we talked about plenty of times last season was just how seamless the transition was from Jurgen Klopp to Arne Slot. He's now had his own summer transfer window, and question marks are being raised about him. And perhaps he's not quite as good as we first thought. Are those kind of accusations a little unfair for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think someone, or any manager that wins the Premier League, deserves respect, because it's a difficult league to win. To come in and take over from someone like Jurgen Klopp, it was always going to be difficult. So to take that team on, deliver a championship, it's not something to be sniffed at. I think when you look at where they are right now, there's a lot of big players underperforming for whatever reason. But the fact that Liverpool keep conceding early goals as well, and all of a sudden the nerves kick in, from the stands to the players. They need to stop conceding early goals to give themselves an opportunity to win games of football. Will it turn around? Yeah, you've got too many good players. I think Merce, in terms of the Trent Alexander-Arnold one, yes, huge miss. The other side as well, I don't think any of us sat here last year or even at the start of the season and said that the signing of Kirkes was going to be a bad signing, but he's underperformed. Andy Robertson, it's when you look at people like Andy Robertson who have given their all for the football club for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you think, well, we're just going to move them on. I know he's still there, but we're just going to move them on. We'll bring in Kirkes, it'll be fine. It's not as seamless as that. And they've struggled in areas. You look at the two centre-backs. I mean, Virgil van Dijk has been unbelievable, but there's been a few mistakes, whether it's because of Konaté's form. It doesn't look to be that. They don't look to be the same partnership as they've been. Gravenberch, I think, has been a huge miss from the middle of the pitch as well. So there is things where haven't quite worked out. I think when you make so many signings, so many big signings, you're already under pressure. So there's a lot of questions right now around Liverpool as a football club. But I think they'll turn it around, to be honest. I think, we were speaking about it upstairs. If Arsenal, I expect them to win the league, but if they have to, Liverpool will still be the main contenders.
And Dawes, before we look at some of the potential answers in terms of turning this form around, I just wonder if it's just maybe been a little bit unfair on Arne Slot. There's this idea that he came in, just continue what Klopp was already doing. Because as Boydie rightly says, to win the Premier League, it is a tough assignment. But you look at the season before he arrived, they finished third. They're 9 points off Man City. The season before that, they finished down in fifth, 22 points behind the winners, Man City. It's not necessarily fair just to say continue what was there already, because the two seasons before, they were way off it.
Yeah, no, we were all last season we were nothing but complimentary of Liverpool and the job that Arne Slot had done. And this is the first real challenge that he's had through the door. And we've got to remember a lot went off in the summer. Players going out the door, and he had to recruit, and it does take time. And I think Wirtz coming in, I sat in the summer and thought I was really excited for this player coming in from Leverkusen. Yes, he came for an awful lot of money, but it takes time, and we don't have time in this industry because you have to hit the ground running. Merce said earlier when they were winning games, and I disagreed with him at the time, they weren't playing well, and I thought it was a sign of a good team. But you've got to remember, coming into the start of this season, when you've won it, how hard it is to retain it. And unfortunately for Liverpool at this moment in time, they are so far off it, so poor individually, collectively, and the amount of opportunities they give away, you're in big trouble. And that's what we're seeing from Liverpool. But I think you've got to give the players time. Andy Robertson, which Boydie just touched on, I will put him straight back into this team at this moment in time. Get Kerkez out, take him away from the lights and pressure that you're under, because Liverpool aren't winning, and he's under scrutiny. And for any player, Andy Robertson will go back to when he signed from Hull City. He took him 6 months to be able to settle into this ginormous football club, and you look at the career he's had. I would put him straight back in, try and take some pressure off the players, and just try and get back to winning ways, because wow, they are a million miles off it, and I think it's a big crisis.
Even the goalkeeper, Alisson is a huge miss for them as well.
Yeah. Merce, before we look at the long balls and why they're struggling in that department, just picking up on some of the things that Slot's been saying this week, because understandably, when things begin to go wrong, you're under even more scrutiny than he already is. And it just feels like at times he's not helping himself. I mean, he spoke about the 10 changes he made for the Crystal Palace game midweek where they went out of the League Cup, started talking and blaming fixture congestion, then started saying the squad not quite as big as people probably think it is. He has since rode back a little on that, but in terms of what he's coming out and saying, he's not exactly helping himself, is he?
No, but that's pressure. That's what pressure does to everybody. Don't matter who you are.
So do you think he can deal with it and turn it around like Boydie thinks he can then?
I think he'll turn it around. They've got too many good players. Too many, form, talent is permanent, forms, it's out the window at the moment. And what comes with that, with bad form, is confidence. Confidence gets shot, and they haven't got that confidence at the moment. I think, I just can't believe what he done in midweek. I honestly can't. When you're losing game after game after a game, you've got to start winning sooner or later and start that run. And it was an opportunity. I'm not saying that they were definitely going to beat Palace, but I felt for the young kids as well that were put out on that pitch against a good Palace team. When you're putting youngsters out like that, you've got to put experience with them. You can't leave them out there to get to hang, if I'm being, that sort of hung to dry.
Let's talk then, Sue, about this whole issue of long balls, because when you look in terms of teams who are facing this kind of tactic at the moment, well, Liverpool are facing more long balls than anybody else, 571 so far this season. Bournemouth next on 525. Doesn't exactly seem to be affecting them at the moment. So that's the way teams are choosing to play against Liverpool. We saw it a bit from Manchester United in their recent victory at Anfield. The question now is, what does he do to counteract this and restore and recover the form we saw last season?
I think that's what he's trying to figure out. And the fact that he came out and said it, didn't he? He said that's what we're struggling with. We're struggling with long balls, with set pieces, when teams go direct against us. And then that's exactly what Brentford did to them. Brentford exposed Liverpool's weaknesses. They went long and direct. They were good on the throw-ins. They were good on the set pieces. And Liverpool struggle with that sort of physicality, if you like. And I think that's something now that he's got to try and figure out, because teams will do that against them. They know that that's a weakness of Liverpool's. I do think that Andy Robertson should come back into the side, and I think that's maybe Kerkez trying to adapt to the way that Liverpool play. Bournemouth play a different way. He's used to that sort of counter-attacking, whereas when he's having a little bit more of the ball, he is struggling, he looks low in confidence. I think what Andy Robertson does really well, he tucks in as well, and he can make a three. So if the right full-back, if you like, goes forward, he'll come and he'll help the centre-halves, because you wonder, are the centre-backs not playing as well because they're changing full-backs and because the full-backs aren't performing? So it's like, you'll know, Dorsa, as a centre-back, it's difficult, isn't it, when you've got someone alongside you that's maybe not performing as well.
It doesn't matter who the full-back was beside you.